When I was studying the IELTS listening, it was nearly impossible to give an all answer in part 4. But then I discovered a simple technique that changed everything. In this video, I'm going to share with these techniques help you answer all the questions IELTS listening part 4. Let's dive in. Hello friends, welcome back to Mr. Aksoy channel. If you are new in this channel, my name is Fahri Aksoy, and in this channel, I'm sharing everything you need to know learning English and IELTS. Let's make the part 4 practice test together, and simply you can understand how I use this technique in the real test. I think one of the hardest part in the IELTS listening, there are lots of unfamiliar vocabulary, but it's alright because you don't need to understand the whole speaking to answer the questions. You only need to understand information specific to the question itself. This is a not completion type of question. You have to complete the task with one word only. So first of all, check for the instructions, which is written bold and big. And after that, always try to listen carefully the keywords if you cannot understand the whole conversation. And try to predict the answer, what will be. So for example, 31, something wasn't allowed. The keyword is they don't allow it in the preparation, which is noise or talking. Or 32, we're talking about word, God, and something else, some symbol, maybe warrior, or maybe someone else. And 33, we are talking about additional decoration with grasses and maybe flowers, maybe feathers. And 34, something noisy attached to them. What makes noise? Maybe bells, maybe rings or whistles. Or 35, some shape we needed. We have triangular shape, rectangular shape. And 36, something mixed with oil, fish oil, coconut oil, olive oil. But some oil we're gonna use that. What type of oil could be? And 37, we need a additional decoration because we have human head mask with something else and a tattoo. We're talking about the head. Is a hair or a paint on the mask? And 38, there is a way to communication to gods because a way sending to maybe message, maybe prayers. Number 39, there is something necessary. A way of telling the other village, meeting, what we want to say that. A meeting, maybe their ritual. And the last question is that, is the communication method we needed. Because a means of if enemies were coming. So if enemies were coming, we have to warn them. Or we give the signal. These tips makes you easy to understand the part 4. And trying to give all the answers in the part 4 that if you know what to expect, even you don't know the whole vocabularies in the audio, in that way, you can give the answer from the keyboard. Let's hear the full audio.
Well, good morning everyone. As you know, we've been looking at different kinds of art and craft that were practiced by the Maori people of New Zealand, at least before the Europeans began to arrive in the 18th century. So, the focus of this lecture is kite making, how the kites were made, their appearance, and the purposes they served. Well, let's start with the way they were made. As with other Maori artistic traditions, kite making involved certain rituals. So, firstly, only priests were allowed to fly and handle the largest, most sacred kites. There were rules too, for the size and scale of the kites that the priests had to follow, and during the preparation of both small and large kites, food was strictly forbidden. In terms of appearance, kites were frequently designed in the image of a native bird, or a Maori god, and sometimes, perhaps less often, a well-known hero. You can imagine that when Maori first arrived in the new country, in New Zealand, it may have taken some time to find suitable materials for their kites. But, through trial and error no doubt, they found plants and trees that provided bark and even roots that they could use to make the frames and wings of their kites. And after the frame had been constructed, the kite then had to be decorated. For this, the priests used long grasses, and these, when the kite was in the air, would stream along behind it. They also used a variety of feathers to add colour to their creations. Well, all this meant it was easy to see a kite in the sky, but you could also hear Maori kites. They could be quite noisy indeed, and this was because some priests liked to hang a long row of shells from the kite. You can imagine how they'd rattle and clatter in the wind, how they might completely capture your attention. As I said before, the most common image was probably a bird, and that's the same for other kite-making cultures. But the kites were designed in particular shapes. So, there were kites that were triangular, rectangular, and also shaped like a diamond. And some of them were so large it would actually require several men to operate them. Some of the kites were also covered in patterns, and to make these patterns, the Maori used different pigments of red and black, and these were either made from a charcoal base or from red-brown clay which had been combined with oil obtained from a local species of shark. Now, before I forget, if you have a chance, do visit the Auckland Museum, because they have the last surviving Birdman kite on display. This is the kind of kite that has a wooden mask at the top of the frame. It's a mask of a human head, and you can clearly see it has a tattoo and also a set of teeth. Quite impressive, and a good example of Maori craftsmanship and symbolism. Right, turning to the purpose and function of the kites. They certainly had multiple uses. Primarily, the flying of kites was a way of communicating with the gods, and when the kites rose into the air, the Maori used them to deliver messages, perhaps requesting a good harvest, good fortune in war, a successful hunting expedition. So these kites were incredibly valuable to a community, treasured objects that one generation would pass to the next. People would also fly kites for other reasons. For example, to attract the attention of a neighbouring village. This was done when a meeting was required between Maori elders, a convenient method indeed. And finally, when it comes to war, there are traditional stories that describe how when a Maori warrior found himself surrounded by his enemies, a kite could actually provide the possibility of escape. The kites were powerful enough to take a man up into the air, and for this reason, they could also be used to lower him into enemy fortifications so that an attack could begin from the inside. Well, I'm happy to say there seems to be a revival and growing interest in kite making.
How did it go, guys? I hope you got everything correctly. If not, don't worry about that. Let's check the answer together. Question 31 is food was strictly forbidden during the preparation. And question 32, as we talk about that, a hero, a well-known hero. Because if you write the well-known hero, it's going to be incorrect. But because we need just one word. And question 33, decorated with grasses and feathers, which is talking about the long grasses and feathers. Question 34 is a noisy shells. Instead of saying attached to them, it's saying that hang a long row of shells, which is using the just different word. And 35, as we talk about that, is a shape, is a diamond shape. 36, we need a type of oil, which is a shark oil. And 37 is the teeth. It's talking about that mask of a human head, tattoo, and also set of teeth. And the last three questions that 38, we need to send a message. That a distractor is a communication, but we have to deliver the message. And 39, something necessary to other villages, which is meeting. You might thinking about that for other reason, but there's a meeting is not necessary. And the last question is escape. There's a distractors provide the possibility, but we need a method, which is escape method, and enemies were coming. And this is the section 4, all the answers together. Check your answers. Feel free to pause the video if you need it. Please let me know in the comments below. How many answers did you give correctly? If you didn't get all the answers, don't worry guys. This is a practice. It's alright to make mistakes in the practice. This is a part of the learning. Once you make mistakes in the practice, that gives you a high chance to achieve high score in the real test. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that. See you in the next video.